You gonna join us?
Sorry. I don't know where we're starting.
Hey, welcome back to 30 Days to Building a Marriage You Love. He extra loves it, right? I'm Danielle.
I'm Chris.
And we're diving into tip number 20. I told Chris, I said, it's hard to believe that we still have 10 more to do, but we're getting them, right?
That's right.
And we're getting lots of good feedback and just people just kind of messaging here or there about like things they're going through. I'm like, oh yeah, this is actually a good one, which is what is inspiring tip number 20, which is, do you remember?
Yes, I remember.
Okay.
Compassion versus competition.
I always have a moment where I'm like, do I remember? I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Compassion versus competition. So, Danielle, would you like to open this up?
Sure, I would. So I'm actually going to read to you real quick the definition of compassion, which is sympathetic pity and concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others. And so I think like another definition talked about to suffer together. And how this came about was we are a military family. And in the 8+ years that we have been together, I think we calculated that we have spent close to 50 months apart. And in that, the various deployments have held a lot of different feelings and thoughts. And this is applicable to any couple or any circumstance. But there has been a lot of debate, especially in the very first deployment. There was debate even between us of who had it worse, who was in the worst circumstances. And we would, Chris had a cush deployment.
I don't really know about that, but.
Well, I played that game in my head.
Okay.
I played that game in my head where I was like, I was very mad and I was bitter. I mean, it's just us talking, right? I can be honest with you. I went through this in my head where I was like, he is deployed in this type of scenario and this blah, 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 blah. And it was a very unique deployment.
Which deployment is this?
This was Romania. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a very unique deployment. It wasn't to Afghanistan or like, anyway, it was just a very unique deployment. I'll say that. And so I did have this in my head where I would almost compete with, well, I have it much harder here as a new mom and I'm all alone and I have no family nearby. And I just realized it started creating a very divisive ground essentially in our marriage as I would try and connect with him. But yet I was below the surface. I was angry with him and I was mad. And I felt like he did not have as much compassion where, you know, on the flip side, he would tell me, he was like, I mean, I want to be home with you. Like,
yeah.
So anyway, that's just kind of the backstory of how we're like leading up to this. But before I continue, I just wanted to, do you have a scripture or anything you want to interject?
No, I forgive you.
I'm sorry. Now we're going to go reconcile.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I've already apologized. I have already apologized. That was 6 years ago.
I know you have.
Okay, I was going to say.
You have, yeah. No, I mean, there's a lot of verses about compassion too in the Bible. But I think that Colossians was the one that jumped out at me. Put on then as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another. And if one has a complaint against one another, forgiving each other as the Lord has forgiven you. So you must also forgive.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not just a deployment or kind of separation from work that we're talking about. I mean, it's really also throughout the course of the day.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly admit and think that spouses that are home while their husbands or wives are deployed have it much harder than us while deployed. And I will go on record saying that. Now, don't get me wrong. War is challenging. It's a different kind of challenging though.
Right.
And especially when I think we found out really quick how important it was for both parents when I was deployed, both parents to be there. And we see it throughout the course of the day too, as we're still figuring out how to be parents with little little toddlers and
Yeah.
young ones, the role of both parents are so important. And so it's important for me while I'm gone to make sure that I try to meet her where she's at with the kids and being as engaged as I can when I'm
Mhm.
not able to physically be there. And we talked about quality over quantity time earlier on in one of the other videos. And that's one of the first examples of how we came to that was
Mhm.
I only had a snapshot of time to really talk to her and talk to the kids. And so when that happened, it
And it
was,
was like minutes.
yeah,
Like sometimes it
sometimes,
was like 5 minutes where I was like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, okay, this is 3 days worth of
but you better believe that was
life.
my full focus as much as it could be because those were long days where we were deployed.
Yeah.
And sometimes we'd have to go off of that for a couple days.
Mhm.
But it's also in other ways coming back to showing compassion when I don't have the opportunity to talk to her,
Mhm.
writing her like we talked about in a couple videos ago, writing,
And
emailing,
yeah, pursuing you.
pursuing while we're deployed or while we're away from each other. It was very important for us to, or for me to show a sense of compassion that I understand where she's at and empathize with her situation, even though I can't be there physically to help her. Now there are other ways that I showed compassion
Right.
while you were working. Remember in Georgetown?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And that was
But you
wonderful.
can,
But I do think too, like
yeah,
exactly what you said, like the kindness and compassion. And I do want to just say, even if you don't understand it,
yeah,
even if you don't understand it, this is just a good opportunity to interject that dying to self. Because there's even things about Chris's work. There have been seasons that there's been things going on that I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have 4 kids at home and
mhm,
you have X, Y, and Z. Like, what is so hard? Like, and that is heartless and disrespectful to my spouse because this is the season that God's called him to. This is the season and circumstance that he's in, which means we are in because we are a team. And if I show up with this disrespect or this competitive spirit of, well, my circumstances are
harder
harder
than,
or
yeah,
better than yours, or what, like whatever it is, again, that is divisive.
yep.
And if you don't like to extend forgiveness and if you don't like to practice reconciliation, then you definitely don't want to create grounds for divisiveness. And so just to have a spirit of compassion, of sympathy, of empathy, and sensitivity to say, I may not understand it. I may not even like it, but I love you and you are my person. And so I'm here in it with you. And
Yep.
sometimes hearing it with you can just mean like an email or a thoughtful gesture or just sitting on the phone. Or even last night, I got some really heavy news and Chris was starting to try and talk to me about it. And I was just like verbally processing, which every female, of course, probably relates to. And he said, do you just need me to listen? And I was like, yes, I think I do. I think I just need you to be in it with me. Like you've lost somebody before. I haven't, I've been fortunate to not, and so
One of the
just
best
that's,
things you can say. Do you just want me to listen? Don't try to fix it. I'm still learning this, but I'm getting better at it, I think.
you are,
Yeah.
you are. It only took you about 6 minutes
Okay.
last night. And then like,
That is
which
true.
was a record. It was good. It
Yeah,
was,
we're
see,
getting
we're going to
better.
celebrate the wins because, it was like, and
Mhm.
and it ended up being a really solid night, a great night and, whatnot. But just that sensitivity to just know that your person is different than you. And while you are a team, God has this very special call in their life. And so to champion that, you cannot compete with that. And we're going to talk about this in a video to come because this is super important. But men and women, we are not competitors. We are teammates. And so we run together and we champion and cheer each other on. And as your spouse, like you are not to compete with them. There is nobody wins while the other loses. You are a team. And so you win together and you lose together. Okay, those are eyebrows. He gives me a hard time about my eyebrows, but it is like the whole
I was
upper
just trying
half,
to think.
the whole upper half of your face
I was
is
just trying to
like,
process.
Clearly,
last thing you said.
I would just like credit for my one
That was
eyebrow, and
deliberate,
then
yeah.
that was both eyebrows, both eyes. Well, let's go ahead and hear from you.
All right. So, all right. So compassion, I think another thing to think about is how can you meet each other in the middle with it? So what I mean by that is depending on what season or stage of life you're in, for us, we have young children. So it's a very time demanding time for us. And fortunately, I'm in a season at my work where I have a little flexibility in my schedule. There are set battle rhythm events that I always have to attend and be present with. But at the end of the day, as long as my work's getting done, I can essentially manage my schedule and also still telework, which I think is a great,
It's a huge blessing.
great flexibility to have. But then, as we were talking about it, Danielle brought up something that she wanted to talk to me about. What else can I do schedule wise to help meet her in the middle? And I knew that she was just having a tough time in this season. It's the season of life that we're in right now.
Yeah.
And so I had to take stock in my schedule and see, okay, well, what else can I do? How else can I help articulate?
I'm sorry. I have the Encanto music video going through my head. What else can I do? I'm so sorry. It's a really great movie. Keep going. You took stock in your schedule. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
We watched a lot of Encanto lately.
It's so good.
Anyway,
I'm recovering.
So being able to find a way to meet in the middle on just life in general.
Yeah.
And so one of the solutions we came up with was printing out my schedule to find a way that we can have set times that we both know a week in advance. And it may seem like, well, duh, that's a great solution and everybody's doing that, but we haven't been doing that. We haven't been doing that. And so, we're still learning more about each other and more about.
We will. I don't think we'll ever arrive, and I don't want us to arrive. I want us to continue learning and evolving.
Yeah, especially you. I'm just kidding.
What else can I do?
Anyway, so it's a small thing, but it's also the ability for, I'm learning that there's certain times that things just go off the rails because all 4 kids get up, naps are done, everyone's hungry. And so fortunately, I have some flexibility in my schedule at the end of the day. And so we're going to make it work where I can come home a little earlier and be present for that time to make sure that I can take care of the kids and get them off of her back in some cases, because Caleb does do that a lot. Literally, if you've seen some of my other videos on Instagram. But it's a small thing, but it's a way that I'm trying to be compassionate with what's going on in her life at home, because, that our most important job is each other and parenting.
Yeah, raising these babies.
Raising these kids. As much as I enjoy what I do, I love being a dad and I love being a husband, and anything I can do to serve and come back and make sure that I'm present to invest in those kids. They're watching all the time.
Yeah.
And they're going to know that daddy was present.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, just to that point, it's a great moment to die to self, which doesn't mean that it's a fun moment, but just to know that you are leaning in, stepping forward, serving because you love your person, and because you are believing the best about them, because you are pursuing unity and reconciliation in your marriage, and because you are stronger together than you are apart, and that this has to be solid. And so do not compete with each other. I cannot encourage you that enough. We love to compete. We compete all the time about all sorts of things in our marriage, but
like dance offs.
We do dance offs, games,
and I win those.
Okay. There are times that you do.
Most times.
Okay.
I can't.
Anyway. Okay. But all that to say, I'm trying not to lose my train of thought. You are a team. And so find ways to champion your spouse, die to self, and choose to be sensitive to who they are, how they are uniquely, divinely wired, and see how you can come alongside and celebrate and work not to compete in those things that are sensitive, and so crucial to
And,
who they are in that season.
and win with humility, like in Goldfish and Go Fish and other card games
There you go.
and dance offs.
And dance offs. All right. Thank you for joining. No, we'll have a dance off after this video. And
Who's gonna judge? No, I'm not putting that on video.
no, I dance like Elaine. It's just too good. So you can just go Google that right now. Thank you for joining us for Compassion Over Competition. We love being here with you guys, and we are so thankful for you.